Welcome back to Sunday Vibes, one and all. We're back in the pub. Me, Doogie and Chris taking on your questions. The first one was sent in by Spencer_T7. He says, if Sarri does lose his job at Chelsea, who should replace him? Doogie, the cut's healing.
The cut is healing, yeah. Took on a tree and lost, but we'll go away from that and on to Sarri, who's also losing heavily at the moment. But
took on a tree, you barking mad?
Hey. But before we get on to any potential replacements, I would like to put it out there right now that I do not want Sarri to lose his job. I think it would be premature. I mean, look at where they are in the league. They're 1 point off United, they're in 6th, but they're only 1 point off United in 4th. They're still in Europe. They've got a great chance in the Europa League. They're in a cup final against City next Sunday. I think people are overreacting. Yes, the performance against Chelsea was probably the worst top 6 versus top 6 performance I've ever seen.
Yeah. No, since Arsenal United. Arsenal United.
Since,
a lot of parallels.
Since
a lot of parallels with that game.
And I remember Arsenal losing 6-3 against Chelsea at one stage, and that was pretty embarrassing.
United shipping 6 at home to City was pretty poor.
Again. But this was pretty shambolic. But I'd argue that he shouldn't lose his job. I've said it before on this show that he wasn't given enough time in the summer to implement, get in the players that he needed. I know they brought in Kovacic, I know they got a keeper in Kepa, but he needed more than Jorginho to get this Chelsea team playing as he wanted. Give him at least another 6 months. But he has said this week that it has not been easy to re-motivate the players. He said yesterday that there was real issues, that he had to have an hour-long inquisition in the dressing room after that Chelsea defeat. He also called out Abramovich, which I didn't think was a particularly good move in those comments. Those comments post-game, said that he hasn't spoken to him for months. They've obviously lost. They've conceded at least 4 goals away from home in both their last 2 games. Things are, hanging by a thread, as it were. The loss to City was completely deserved. You can't hang it up anyway. Other than that, they conceded 4 goals in the first 30 minutes. It was limp. They were nowhere to be seen in terms of the right motivation, the right commitment to play. Their organisation looked poor. No one played to their ability. But I just think that this next month will be crucial. They've obviously got Malmo in the Europa League tonight. Happy Valentine's Day, by the way. They've then got Man United in the FA Cup. They've got Malmo at home. Then they've got the Capital One Cup final.
Big chance for
and they've got the Spurs at home. So this month, if this month goes poorly and they exit the FA Cup, lose the Capital One Cup final, and struggle against Malmo, lose to Spurs, then I think we can start talking about his job under threat. But I think for me, it's too early at the moment. I know he's had a bad month, but I think this would be too early at current, is my thoughts.
Appreciate you laying the groundwork there, dude, because I didn't know about that hour-long inquisition, and that's only perpetuating the fact that he's really not getting on with the squad, is he whatsoever. Their personality is more so than their abilities, and I do think that's one of the biggest issues. Chelsea have a squad full of ambivalent players at the moment who probably couldn't get better contracts elsewhere. And the comments about Abramovich are, I think, quite eye-opening. You need to have a coherent vision running through the club from top to bottom. When Abramovich first took over Chelsea in the mid-noughties, it was to end the stranglehold that Arsenal and Manchester United had on English football. And then Abramovich, from there on, planning billion-dollar improvements to the stadium. Obviously, that was canned as well. Currently can't get in the country. I believe that's still the case. Yeah. Not actively looking to sell, but murmurs that he's willing to
listen to offers,
to entertain offers for the first time in a long time, because it always seemed like that was despite the oil empire, that was kind of the jewel in his crown. That was his plaything, and he was always at games and he was always very sort of engaged with managers.
Almost seemed to
have a really good personal relationship with Jose Mourinho at various junctures. So I think that doesn't help, and I think Sarri at the moment is kind of shouldering the burden of trying to rebuild the club, how he sees fit, but maybe in a very Pep Guardiola fashion when he came in as well. He's not just changing them stylistically on the pitch. He's having to entertain things off of it as well. And I think that was not a cry for help, because he's not that sort of manager, but it was like, at the moment, who's he answering to? Marina Granovskaya, who is the director of football.
Yeah.
So yeah, the lines of management, the lines of hierarchy at the club may be a little bit blurred, and that can only serve to cause chaos a little bit further down. Extending from the boardroom to the pitch.
So you'd keep him as well?
I would keep him. I don't think he deserves a sack. We've said on previous shows how many parallels to Pep's first season as well. And the worst thing he could do at the moment would be to, if they've tried to buy into this ball-playing football for a long time, tried to emulate the Barcelona style, actively went after Pep Guardiola, didn't they, Chelsea? And this is it. These are the hurdles they've got to overcome in order to get to the promised lands. So I just don't understand this knee-jerk reaction to more pragmatic, physical football, getting the big blokes. Let's play like Jose did in 2005, 2006 when we got 94 points and only conceded 15 goals. I mean, before then they hadn't won the league in 37, 38 years. So I don't know why they're tied to this modus operandi of get the big blokes back in. I mean they are sort of exactly the same point that Sarri was last season. So that it's difficult to swallow. There's been no tangible progress other than a few good halves against top sides here and there.
Yeah.
But I think he just stick with it. If he changes his formation, if they change manager, they're effectively they don't deserve to achieve their vision.
Yeah, I kind of agree. I definitely agree with your points in that he hasn't had enough time for recruitment of his own squad, and he needed players to fit his system that he never got. I completely agree with that point. I think the issues with Sarri that don't align with Pep Guardiola was there was a very clear top to bottom vision at Manchester City. They got the director of football in that he wanted, in Tiki Begiristain, early doors. They got a lot of hierarchical changes.
New training facilities.
At Manchester City, which worked really well. The difference for me at Chelsea is that Chelsea have had continued success from high turnover of managers. Every single time they sack a manager, usually, barring this season, they get success the next season. So for Chelsea, at the very top level, they will probably be thinking, every time we sack a manager, it works for us. Why would we not get rid of Sarri in this situation and look elsewhere?
I'd say just supposedly this vision, this wanting of this football purism stems from Abramovich.
Yeah.
So if he's becoming ambivalent towards the club and he's not really interested in fulfilling that vision, then yeah, they should revert back to winning football. If he's looking for suitors and that attracts suitors, then okay, get that done.
Because I also think that if you look at Chelsea right now, I don't know what the club's vision is. At the moment, Chelsea are going trophy to trophy and they're just hoping to win as many as they can. But you've got massive issues for Sarri, and I don't think Sarri is the right man to solve them. I think in the summer, when he loses Eden Hazard, you suddenly go, hell, this squad's grim. Is Sarri the right man to turn over a 10-man squad? He don't get me wrong, I loved his Napoli side, brilliant. But in terms of buying players in, not that he didn't have the best record, but he improved a lot of players. I actually look at that Chelsea team, I think, who's he improved? In that, so maybe Rudiger. I think Rudiger's probably taken a couple of strides forward this season.
Barkley's playing better than he has in a Chelsea shirt before.
You'd have said after 10, 12 games that a lot of them are playing the best football they've played in a couple of years. So it is, it's very
I think it's too early. I agree.
This situation. But I mean, if he's at the same point this time next season, then these conversations are probably legitimate.
But surely he's going to be.
He'd have had 3 windows by then.
Like if you're the Chelsea, if you're Sarri, who do you bring in? How many players are you asking for in the summer? Because you're probably asking for a left back, a centre back,
10.
a central midfielder to replace Kovacic, an Eden Hazard replacement, another striker, hoping to get the best out of Christian Pulisic and blood him in. You're getting 7 of your starting 11 turnover. We are going to be at this situation next year. But 7 players do not. I've never seen in the history of football 7 players come into a first team and hit the ground running.
But if that is the situation, then why would you bring in a new manager?
Yeah.
Everyone's going to have that same. The crux of the issue is going to be the same for everyone.
It all just depends on what his targets were for this year, and I don't think they were any higher than get into the top 4, have a good run in the Europa League, get back into the Champions League through the Premier League, and hopefully win a cup. And he is on target he's a point off the Premier League, the top 4 at the moment, but he's on target for that. And
He's not on target to finish in the top 4 at the moment, though.
He's 1 point
They're in an
off.
absolute spiral.
He's 1 point off. Things change so quickly. Look at City, losing 2 of 3 games around Christmas time. They were out of the title race. Things change in football easily. In March, I doubt we'll be saying, I think they are better than United. I think they are better than Arsenal. I think they are the 4th best team in England. And,
Same.
we'll see whether that comes to fruition. Also, Chelsea need to realise where they are in global standing now. They are not competing with the big... I mean, if you get offers from Man City, Liverpool, or even Spurs, I think you go there over Chelsea. They cannot compete for the big names of football. So to continually change managers, trying to give them a new squad with completely new players to fit that philosophy isn't going to work, especially when you've got an owner that doesn't want to commit any more of his money to the club.
When they brought those players in that did change the sort of magnitude of Chelsea's standing, it was the first time the Premier League had ever seen super spending, effectively. Arsenal, Manchester United had spent decent sums, but Arsenal were redeveloping their stadium in the hope to become a superpower like Manchester United. Manchester United had obviously gone through the commercial revolution, but then here came a club who went from here to here just because of Abramovich's money. That's the only reason Chelsea became a force in football. And you take away his interest, and you take away his spending power, they're falling back down to where they were before. 4th, 5th. Like, Chelsea don't have long-term sustainability if they're not if they're not the plaything of a super rich owner. So I do think he's taking on an inordinate, a disproportionate amount of responsibility for the club's failings at the moment. And it's just so f***ing annoying to see pundits revert to the mean, isn't it? When they're like, oh, bloody Sarri thought he could come here and play fantastic football, thought he could use one midfielder to progress all of his play through. He's only got a plan A.
The same thing they did to Guardiola.
He's not got a plan B. Yeah, the same thing they did to Guardiola. And the same thing, when Antonio Conte came in, it was very similar as well, wasn't it? Like,
but Antonio Conte adapted.
Do you remember his rough patch at the start though? People were like, wing backs playing a back 3.
No, but he didn't start with a back 3. He started with a back 4, didn't work, moved to a back 3. Sarri has started with a system, his system's struggling, and he's not adapted even a 10% margin.
I agree.
But have his players adapted fully to his system? Because it's a two-way street, isn't it? That's what I'd say. I'm not excusing like Sarri. He is culpable to an extent, but what can he do with this current squad of players to change his fortunes?
Yeah.
But I mean, I agree. Sarri needs more time, but I do think he should be shouldering a lot more responsibility than he is.
I think he needs more support.
Like to move. Start off. Let's get N'Golo Kante back in his best position, best defensive midfielder in the world, and we're playing him out of position.
Especially with Jorginho's confidence shot.
Okay, maybe against Manchester City, you move him back there. But equally, as soon as he starts moving him back, I think that's when the pillars of his philosophy at Chelsea turn to salt and sand, because then he's admitting defeat, and then his position is lessened in his players' eyes. I think, like, if that's what he truly believes, live by the sword, die by the sword.
I agree to a certain extent, but all the top managers are able to change formation in a game. Look at Klopp. Look at
Pochettino.
He changes between a back 5 and a back 4 so easily. Players these days need to change their opponents. They could still play at the back 5. They do have the players to change system. You play Hazard as a 10 behind Higuain, and then I don't know, Pedro and Willian on either wing.
It's the same squad as Conte.
You could easily do 4-2-3-1. You could do 5 at the back.
We talk about Jurgen Klopp now, but Jurgen Klopp is probably the poster boy for sticking with your manager. Well, did he finish 7th in his first season?
He did, but
exactly the same record as Brendan Rodgers.
But again,
it took them 2 or 3 brilliant windows to be able to change formation.
But Jurgen Klopp, he adapts game to game. I see him bring a 4th man in, like Shaqiri, to be able to link up with the strikers. I look at Sarri, there's no changes being made. It's the same
I also look
starting
at Sarri,
team.
and he's trying to run a midfield 3 with a low knee and Ross Barkley.
Yeah, but the low knee's Kovacic.
Yeah, who is probably been good. His reputation has preceded him this season, I think. He's offered very little on the attacking end. And my opinion of him is not. I still think he's a brilliantly well-rounded player, but as a centrepiece in a midfield 3, not convinced.
On paper, you look at him. Is he any worse than Gini Wijnaldum? Like, Gini Wijnaldum's having the season of his life, I admit. But if Gini Wijnaldum, for me, was playing that Chelsea side, he'd be doing way better than Kovacic.
Yeah, I agree.
That's
emboldens my point
about
the fact that he's just not. I don't think he's got the players to execute his vision at the moment, and neither did Jurgen Klopp, neither did Pochettino when he first came, neither did Sir Alex Ferguson. Arsene Wenger did, because he's an absolute don. He won the Premier League in about 18 months, but spent an awful lot of money there.
So in the summer, when Hazard leaves,
pursuit of instant success is
who do you go for?
Someone like
who
that.
do you look for as the Hazard replacement when he goes? Because are we all in agreement Hazard's off in the summer? If he was going to stay, to said it.
If they finish outside top 4, yeah, 100%. I don't think it's as clean cut as that. I don't know whether Real Madrid would be guaranteed to want Hazard in the same extent they did 2 years ago. I don't think he is the top of the winging pecking order of the world. If I was Real Madrid, I'd look at someone like Sterling or someone like Son. I think actually Son would fit Real Madrid better than Hazard in many ways.
I think you and I always say we'd prefer Sterling, and people give us a bit of grief for that. But one, I think ability-wise, he's a little bit behind Eden Hazard in terms of being a naturally talented footballer, but 4 or 5 years younger. That's what people are missing out.
Yeah, I know what you mean, but Hazard is just to me like the epitome of a Real Madrid player. Like a Galactico on paper who's going to come in, the fans are going to be buzzing about him, they're going to pay extraordinary amounts of money for him. His signing day is going to be a PR headlines.
But Vinicius on the left is killing
exactly.
The most assists for Real Madrid this season. Do you
I don't think
that off at the...
No, I don't think they play. I don't think they'll end up playing Hazard as a left winger. I think they'll give him a free role. They'll give him a Ronaldo role.
Well, I mean, that's not worked well for Isco under Solari, has it? Ronaldo...
Solari's not going to be there in the summer, is he?
Well, in their current form, they're smashing it in the La Liga in La Liga in the last month or so. They should go through against Ajax. I know they were fortunate in that game, but it's now looking like if they finish second, can you really get rid of Solari with the chaos that was going on at the start of the season? I'm not so convinced as I was a month ago. I do, I apologise for that. I've slightly changed my tune, but I don't think there's a guarantee that Solari loses his job anymore.
So. You did a little bit of research on replacements.
Yeah.
And I think, what did you come up with? Zidane?
Well, the bookmaker's favourite at the moment is Zidane. And Zidane's a really interesting appointment, not necessarily for his managerial ability, but because of his links with Hazard. And Hazard basically has always idolised Zidane. He was the main reason that he's wanted to go to Real Madrid over the last 4 or 5 years, to work under Zidane. So if Zidane comes in, there is a potential that Hazard could be persuaded to stay.
But look at the position that Chelsea are in then. If they want to bring Zidane in primarily to placate their star player, how is that conducive to a winning team?
I don't think they'll be doing that. They'll be doing that. Things have got so desperate with Sarri that they need a replacement. Zidane is available. He wouldn't cost any compensation. But his agent this week said he will not leave his sabbatical. This is his year off. He'll decide in the summer. He doesn't want to go into a job in mid-season.
But he has also said a few times that he's not overly convinced about managing England next. I remember when he was linked heavily with United, it was a lot of I don't really want the United job.
There's so many determining factors. I reckon it's more if Ole Gunnar Solskjaer doesn't get the job and Pochettino and Allegri fight for the United job, Allegri goes to Man United potentially. I could see Zidane more at Juventus than Chelsea, if I'm being totally honest. I think his links to the club in the past, that is written in the stars. And the other person that's quite high up in the bookmakers list is Laurent Blanc, but I didn't really think that was possible. But Simeone, I think, is the
classic
interesting
safe pair of hands, Laurent Blanc.
Yeah,
Simeone wouldn't surprise. Simeone's very Chelsea-esque.
Yeah, and what's he done? He's been there for 8 years now. I mean, he's unbelievable success.
So much respect from boardroom level. What top manager who's a little bit omnipotent at their club, like a Simeone, like an Allegri, goes to Chelsea when the owner is just...
When they're up and down.
It's completely ambivalent on the club status at the moment.
Yeah.
It's
such a tough job.
It's not an appealing prospect, is it?
It is an incredibly tough job, and that is probably why they will keep Sarri to try and oversee them. I've just got big issues with Sarri at the moment in that I just don't think he's adaptable enough. And I completely agree. There are definite parallels with Pep Guardiola's first season, and he's clearly got a fabulous system that when it's working, it's almost untouchable. But when it's consistently failing to the same method...
But I'm not sure about this adaptable argument. I'm really not, because I remember Brendan Rodgers at Liverpool. It's a legitimate point. But Brendan Rodgers at Liverpool, when he was constantly adapting after that title, the attempt to win the title, the season after, it was really difficult for him. Remember, he was going to 3 at the back. He was trying a variation of formations, winning 10 games here, but then losing 3. And he sacrificed his vision for pragmatism, and it just wasn't sustainable in the long term. Pep Guardiola, he's made brilliant adaptations to the same system.
No, I don't even know it's the same system. I've seen them play 3 at the back and 4 at the back this season. I'm
but the
yet
principles
to see,
remain the same.
But I'm yet to see a single change in the Chelsea side.
Yeah, but
you know we could say right now what the Chelsea lineup's going to be against Man United, or exactly how they're going to play.
And the substitutions are predictable as well. But that to me says that the personnel, like, he could play Hudson-Odoi a little bit more. Like, there's someone who probably deserves a little bit more time. That could be a wild card that maybe is deserving of more time.
But no matter who they sign, you know who they're playing in midfield next season.
Pep also signed like 4 £50 million players.
I agree.
And one £70 million player who doesn't play at all. And he's bringing in Higuain because Morata wanted shot of the club. He's gone now, of course. But like, it's coming like it's 1 for 1, isn't it? The rotation policy at Chelsea. He's not added to the squad.
He hasn't added to it, but he's signed 2 midfielders to his midfield 3.
Yeah, but to an owner who doesn't want to really go out and spend enough money to challenge for the Premier League.
No, I know, but equally, he spent 90 million in the summer. Like, he bought Jorginho, his number 1 target in. And do you ever see Jorginho being rotated in the Sarri side?
No, but I mean...
Whereas Pep is willing to drop anyone. I don't think anybody's safe of a place under Pep.
But Fernandinho is as important to Pep's current setup as Jorginho is to executing Sarri.
But if Fernandinho wasn't working for City, it wasn't producing results, I think Pep would be willing to drop him.
But I don't think he would drop him. I think he'd rely on other players in that system to fill in the gaps in and around Fernandinho, like Bernardo Silva, like Leroy Sané when he comes in on the left-hand side, David Silva interchanging with Gundogan, interchanging with Phil Foden, Kevin De Bruyne, like Ross Barkley. Let's just go for the Chelsea squad and say who would accent, because there's clearly some players in there that aren't good enough to execute Sarri's vision and that aren't good enough to be maybe in a Champions League.
Well, we did,
aside competing for the Champions League.
We did this on the podcast.
We did this on the podcast, so go download that. But briefly, you're getting rid of Danny Drinkwater, David Luiz, I reckon, Victor Moses.
Let's just go through starting 11. Let's not go through the whole squad.
Alongside,
we did it on the pod.
So on the pod, we're looking for a new left back, starting left back. Emerson as our backup. We're looking for a new centre back to partner Rudiger. We're looking for another central midfielder if Kovacic leaves, although there's quite a good chance that he will stay.
He's definitely going to end up staying.
Because apparently Real Madrid really weren't impressed with his conduct last summer when he was angling for a move. And we were looking for another striker because we were, basically arguing that Morata's move to Atleti will become permanent, and we're looking for a wild card.
So for me, so 4 players they're looking to change in the summer: a centre back, a left back, and we're guessing that Kovacic gets moved on. We're hoping, if some Chelsea fans hoping it, some hoping he stays.
Not a right winger either.
No, they bought Pulisic in for 60 mil, haven't they? He's definitely going to play out there.
So Pulisic pending then.
Yeah, Pulisic's going to play out there,
coming,
and if he doesn't, then like you just said, why is Hudson-Odoi not getting game time over Willian? No, like what is that? What is Sarri's answer to that question?
I suppose Pedro started the season fantastically. Willian has been good when he's come in.
Though, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just I think in a few positions there's just a case of like having a player who's good enough but aren't excelling.
Yeah, and I think that works for Sarri's system more than Hudson-Odoi. Hudson-Odoi is more of an individualist, whereas Willian.
But that's not just a Sarri problem, is it? That's endemic at Chelsea. They've been useless at blooding youth.
To state the bleeding obvious, this summer is probably the most important summer in their entire history. And last summer, their problems of this year are a result of last summer. I mean, everyone knew Conte was going to be fired, but they couldn't work out his compensation package until something like the 14th of July, which, with the window closing earlier this year, basically gave Sarri a month to train his players. And he came and said, I'm a great trainer, I'm only a coach, I'll let them deal with the transfers. That was an error. He should have demanded more.
Why did he say that as well?
He should have demanded more. And it's a rod for his back now when he says he doesn't have the right players for his system.
But if Chelsea know that that's the sort of manager he is, then why isn't there a support network in place to get the best out of your manager?
Yeah, I agree with that.
I agree with that.
Yeah, I agree with that. But that was a stupid comment. I don't need transfers. I can get them. Like that was.
That's not word for word, but it was. I'm a coach.
I'm a coach, not a transfer.
It's brazen, but like maybe also like I'm not really getting that. That might have been. I'm not really getting the outside support I need. I'll say that now, and Chelsea can be like, hoisted by their own sort of petards, kind of thing.
Yeah, I think like you said, I completely agree. It's a massive summer. If they lose Eden Hazard, it's an absolute disaster for Chelsea. So it's an absolute disaster.
Yeah. Did we answer the question? Like, who would you bring in then if he was to get fired? Is that the question?
Yeah, I think we're all in agreement. Right now, he shouldn't be sacked. But equally, coming out of this month, if he hasn't beaten United and Tottenham, he's gone.
This month is massive, yeah. And if they, slip up in the Europa League as well. Imagine if they lose to Malmo.
If they lose to Malmo, then it truly hits the fan.
A cup and a Europa League spot is a 6 or 7 out of 10 for Chelsea at this moment. Would you take a Champions League place over the cup?
They have to get a Champions League place because the summer is there's so much turmoil in terms of signings. The signings they want to make are not going to join if they're not in the Champions League.
Yeah, I agree.
Such a big summer.
And obviously, I wasn't on the podcast this week, don't want you guys to retrace the same ground too heavily, but who did you guys have down as some of the key signings that could be brought in?
Yeah, so like you said, we said left back, didn't we? Mm-hmm. We kind of agreed that Hakimi would be a good signing if they could get him in. Whether or not Real Madrid want to sell remains to be seen. Centre back.
You got Romagnoli.
I thought Romagnoli would be a good option for Chelsea. I think that's the sort of level they're. I don't think they're any longer at Koulibaly, Skriniar level. I think they're probably a Romagnoli level.
Doesn't want to spend 70-80 million on
centre mid. I still think they should. I still think there's more to come from Kovacic that they're not getting out of him. 10 plus deep progressions per match. It's ridiculous. He's probably top 10 in Europe in terms of deep progressions. And I just don't think it's quite working, the balance with him and N'Golo Kante as the two flanking midfielders.
There's prolific goals aren't going to come from either, are they? That's the problem.
Yeah, Zach
I think actually got Isco in.
Zach was talking about Isco as a potential candidate.
Although
there. And
the
then
chance of City snooping that under.
And then I think forwards, Giroud's out of contract in the summer, likely to leave. Morata's probably going to get taken on a permanent by Atletico at about 50 million. So I suggested Luka Jovic as an option, although it seems like he's now agreed to join Barcelona, which is a bit of a shame. They're going to probably miss out on him.
Luka Jovic has agreed to join Barcelona?
Yeah, it seems like it, yeah.
What?
Yeah.
I think he's close.
How am I not seeing this?
Yeah, well, he's agreed personal terms with Barcelona, but they haven't agreed a fee of Frankfurt yet.
And Barcelona, where's all the money coming from?
Yeah.
Qatar.
It's a madness.
But whether or not that is true, I think Frankfurt have denied it, but the agent seems pretty coy that they're definitely in talks with Barcelona.
Yeah,
has it been a bit like?
Director of Football Zach Jalab went for Luka Jovic over Timo Werner.
Although I still think Mauro Icardi is probably the best option there. Looks like he's probably going to leave Inter in the summer, having been stripped of the captaincy yesterday for Sami Handanovic.
But we basically calculated it would take about 250 million, and that's without Hazard being sold.
Yeah.
So.
But because he's not sold the new signed the new contract, there's still that clause in his
Mauro.
In his
It's
existing
like
deal.
105 million, isn't it?
There's a week-long clause at the start of a month in the summer where a team outside Serie A can come and bid for him for, is it 105?
It's like 105 million euro buyout clause
Really?
for Mauro Icardi, yeah.
Yeah, it's really niche. And I only found out about it on the Inter podcast.
I think we'll probably end up getting triggered this summer. I think them stripping of his captaincy, I haven't read enough about it, but it seems like a particularly odd decision at this time, given that Morata, because Beppe Morata has literally joined a week ago now officially.
There's a guy who's going to take it up.
So he's going to take it up, and clearly he's come in, identified issues with Icardi and Wandanara and gone.
Yeah, there's one man who's bigger than the club at the moment, and you look at Juventus, and that did not happen when he rebuilt Juventus.
Yeah, so I think I wouldn't be surprised at all if Icardi leaves. Whether or not he'll go to Chelsea, though, there's plenty of suitors that need strikers.
Yeah, Chelsea wouldn't be top of his pecking order.
Although I read I tweeted this yesterday, and a few people were saying that Real Madrid have already come out and said they would never sign Mauro Icardi because of the relationship with his agent, which is a bit of an odd one.
What? I thought Real Madrid of all clubs wouldn't care about that.
Yeah, I know, so do I. But I think Icardi would be a great option for Chelsea. Obviously, we've spoken about him, don't we? So I don't need to speak about him anymore. But striker, centre mid, centre back, left back is just a start. Okay. That's not even losing Eden Hazard.
So that's our opinion on Sarri, and you boys to fix Chelsea in the podcast.
Yeah, so go and download the podcast right now.
Very thorough Chelsea section.
Link is in the description below. We didn't talk about Sarri in the podcast either, so we've done this quite nicely. And if you want to see what we decided for the future of Chelsea, like I said, click the link in the description below. Here's a little 10-20 second snippet of what we discussed. Kick out the fact that the entire footballing community have united against Liverpool winning the league.
What do you mean?
Oh no, I couldn't disagree more. I'm absolutely delighted that the entire footballing community have turned on Liverpool.
It's so good. It's so good. Like, don't get me wrong, Liverpool playing fantastic football, but it's the people online that drive me through the wall. It's
fans. Moving on to quick fire questions now then. If you want to get your question answered next week, slam it in the comments below or get at us on Twitter. Handles are on screen now. The first one was sent in by Kuvi E142 on Twitter, and he says, thoughts on Ramsey becoming the highest paid British player of all time, reportedly agreeing a £400,000 a week contract, according to David Ornstein at the BBC. A few contrasting reports from the likes of Marcotti saying it's not a 400k a week contract, it's more like 150k.
That's quite a big drop-off.
Big drop-off. So, contrasting reports, but let's believe the Ornacle.
Okay.
Let's believe the Ornacle. What are your thoughts on Ramsey to Juventus 400k?
I think that, his agent deserves a knighthood. He should become king of football agents. I don't know how he has done it. It beggars belief. Not like I don't think Ramsey's a good player, and I was pleased for him to get this move to Juventus. I think he's been underused by Arsenal this season. I think they could have done with him in a few more games, at least starting in a few more games. But I think you read it earlier that he's going to become the 5th highest paid player in the world. I think that's behind Messi, Neymar, Ronaldo, Bale, and then Ramsey, which is just incredible. 2 Welshmen being the 5th, in the top 5.
Come on, the Dragons.
Unbelievable. But I think it just shows what happens if you run down your contract at a current club, and it's going to encourage a lot of players to do it because you can get paid a lot more if a transfer fee's not involved. I don't know why Juventus are willing to pay him that much because it's not going to do well.
There's no fee. There's no
it's
transfer
not going to do
fee.
well for squad harmony. He's paid something like 3 times the amount of Dybala.
They're a frugal football team. I think they're top earners at the minute. Pjanic, Dybala, obviously excluding Ronaldo, absolute anomaly. But they're too frugal, man, to pay him 400 grand a week. I believe it if it was like 250.
Yeah.
It's got to be somewhere in the middle.
But I kind of feel like because they're not paying a fee, it works out cumulatively in terms of figures as if they're paying 150k a week.
I don't know whether it does though, because
he's a £40 million player.
He'll be on 1.6 million per month, which if he's there for a year, it's suddenly a 52 million pound fee. £52
million, but then 0 on wages. So if you actually take the wages out of 150k, he's a 30 to 40 million pound player. It kind of cumulatively works out as it makes sense.
And he does complement the current squad well. Sami Khedira needs replacing. Who else is like a prominent attacking midfielder in that side? So
Emre Can,
Matuidi.
Yeah, I think it does, but equally it does raise questions about Paulo Dybala's future, where he fits in. Because Ramsey wants to play a 10. Ronaldo's going to be a 9. Where does Paulo Dybala fit?
Harking back to our conversation about Sarri, Allegri has really not been afraid this season to bend and flex his system, and he's played different too of Dybala and Ronaldo to decent effect. Obviously, Mandzukic may be the more natural partner for Ronaldo. I was watching the game against Parma, when they drew 3-3, and him and Mandzukic were dovetailing really nicely. But yeah, that's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
Dybala or Ramsey? Obviously Dybala.
They have so many good forward options.
But is Ramsey going to find himself in the same situation?
Maybe Dybala then looks for a move to Real Madrid, and that opens up that little channel, and he plays plays in that system as a striker.
From when I've seen Juventus this year, I think they've always played best with a 4-3-3, with Pjanic as a sort of deep-lying playmaker, and then Matuidi and someone like Can or Bentancur on the right-hand side. I think that's when they've looked their best, and in that system, Ramsey's going into central midfield, and I think he's probably replacing Bentancur maybe. I don't know, but Bentancur plays really, really well. They just have a plethora of options. And I think Aaron Ramsey is a great player to have in your squad, but I just worry. Well, I don't worry about him, but he's gone from Arsenal, where he was a squad player, to Juventus, where he's going to be a squad player, but he does have the cushion of 400k in his pocket. So.
and he's probably. He's the right side of 30 in that midfield, which a few of the players aren't. Bentancur is obviously a lot better defensively, so Ramsey would probably be, if they do play that 4-3-3, maybe on the right or left. I don't know how Allegri sets up as to which midfield is the more prominent attacker. But I think it's a really smart move because Khedira looks like, he signed a contract extension.
Yeah, Khedira is the one.
He's going to become the squad player, isn't he? He needs moving on physically. He looks like he's ailing big time. Bentancur, I'd be upset if he replaced Bentancur because Bentancur's a don.
Yeah, definitely.
Next one was actually sent in on our Reddit page, so if you want to get involved with the Football Daily UK Reddit page, the link is on screen now and in the description below. Come and get involved because it is pretty fun. This one was sent in by Benabobo. He says, Mbappe right now is as good as prime R9? ? No?
We need to get some more. Photoshop's going as well. On
Menez
the Reddit
is killing
page.
it on there.
The Photoshop's out brilliant.
He's really like holding down the fort, isn't he, Menez?
Current first contender. He's Bookie's favourites for Football Daily Fan of the Year.
When does that get announced, by the way?
I think we'll have to work it out, but he's current favourite. I said it on the podcast. Love you, Menez.
Yeah, keep it going.
Yeah, Menez is a don. Talking of dons, Mbappe, he's as good now as prime R9.
Not yet.
Of course, prime R9 was like 18 to 23 or 24. So I can see why they're making the comparisons now that Mbappe's approaching 20 or he's 20.
Must do.
He's sort of experiencing that period that Ronaldo had while at Barcelona, isn't he? Currently at PSG, where he's just been 40 goal a season forward. For
People saying this have not watched R9 in their prime.
For me, R9 just still has the magic. Like, Mbappe is a phenom when it comes to just his physical attributes. Like his ability to run with the ball, like his really clever use of space. But on the ball, was there a more complete forward on the ball than Ronaldo?
No.
His feet were
elastico in season Serie A defenders.
Mbappe wishes he had the feet of R9. Mbappe, I completely agree. Physical attribute-wise, peaks R9.
Mentally as well, very mature.
Yeah. And scores a lot of goals. But the feet of R9, there was something special about R9's ability on the ball. It's like when you try and compare Ronaldinho to anyone, it's incredibly hard because his actual technical ability on the ball is almost unmatched.
It's missing the samba.
Missing the sambas. I think Bonobo is saying that because Mbappe has now overtaken R9 for Champions League goals, which is why it's topical.
Equaled.
But you can't but you can't compare the two at the moment, obviously. Although I did find it interesting that Peter Crouch has more Champions League goals than both of them.
There we have it, and there's the real winner.
So he's better than R9, but Mbappe not quite yet.
Carabini_10 as the next one. He says, should players be allowed to change their nationality after being capped? Brackets, Declan Rice gate.
This doesn't really sit that well with me, to be honest. I'm obviously going to be pleased in the long term if it becomes the defensive midfielder that we need in that team. But you can't play in 3 friendlies and then change nationality. I think they should sort out that rule.
Maybe you
I
can.
get, no, but you can, yeah. But they should change it. It doesn't sit well with me at all. I get it.
Just a loyal bloke, aren't you, mate?
I get his split nationality thing, because I have the same thing with Scotland and England. I really empathise with that, and you can feel Scottish and English at the same time. But once you've played for Ireland, even if it's in a friendly, surely you shouldn't be able to play for another nation. I get it at under 21 levels and then you decide later, but it just doesn't really sit that well with me.
I get the impression that someone, at some point in his career, maybe when he was around 16, 17, said, you're probably not going to be good enough to play for England, Declan. Pursue Republic of Ireland. And he's probably wanted England since schoolboy days or whatever. So I'm not going to begrudge him this transfer whatsoever because he's made massive progress at 18 to 19 and all of a sudden there's a clear pathway to the English side. There's a manager who wants to give the youth a chance rather than playing, well, I mean, defensive midfielders have never traditionally got a chance, have they? Michael Carrick got about 30.
Eric Dyer.
Eric Dyer, yeah, but so I'm not going to begrudge him at all. He's using.
I don't begrudge him. I think the system is wrong.
So you think I quite like that. If it's competitive, fine, that's final. But friendlies,
I think the system's bang on.
Do you?
I think the system's bang on. I think
I think
to ask young players to have a sense of nationalism, of being like, I'm Irish at such a young age, I think is.
They take what they can get, can't they?
When they don't know themselves what they're feeling.
All you can do is ask him before he starts in a friendly.
Yeah, but he doesn't
pretty
know
big
what
move. He's lined up there with the national anthems. He's lined there up in the green. He's become friends with his teammates. Imagine how they feel.
I'm sure they feel aggrieved.
Imagine how the Irish fans are feeling this week. Like, I'm delighted.
Imagine how excited Declan Rice is.
I think it's great for Declan Rice. I just think the system is wrong. I'm not angry with Declan Rice. I don't think it's right that you can play a friendly for another nation.
Ooh, it's an interesting one. Why don't we throw it to a poll? Do you think Declan Rice should have been allowed to play for England, having represented Ireland at a friendly level? Click the I button up there and cast your vote. Let's go to personal questions now. Ranger Rizzo says, aside from football, are there any sports that you watch on a regular basis? Doogie?
Yeah, yes.
Very excited about
rugby, cricket, athletics, boxing, tennis. I'm a bit of a sports nut. To a vague degree on every sport. I'm an absolute BBC Sport addict. I'll just consume anything they put up on there. And I just love it. Love any sport really. And winter sports as well.
Cool, winter sports.
Yeah.
Not so much for me. Not the polar opposite, but don't mind playing and watching a little bit of golf. The Ashes maybe when it's on. Absolutely detest rugby. Can't get to grips with it whatsoever. Admittedly, I have enjoyed it a little bit more when I've watched it with someone who's understood the rules, but just can't bring myself to be emotionally invested in it. Absolute Tory sport. And what else is there? I used to really enjoy swimming, not so much watching it,
Really?
but being a swimmer.
You're
yeah,
a good swimmer.
Despite, I was great.
Those powerful
swimmer.
legs.
Despite my diminutive frame, the breaststroke at
Really?
county level.
County level swimmer.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Drop that in. Love it.
That is good level,
Really?
actually. Yeah, I think for me, rugby union obviously is very close to football in terms of my
Is it
love
that
for
close?
sport. Yeah.
Really?
And if I could watch Exeter Chiefs or Man United, it's 50-50
Yeah.
split.
Really?
I struggle to pick between the
But
two of them.
that's nice though, man. Like having that respite from football.
Yeah, it's great.
do
It's
enjoy
great
it,
when
actually.
Man United were struggling over like the last 4 years, when Man United haven't quite been at the top of the game because Chiefs have just gone Premier League final, Premier League final, Premier League final. It's like, oh, this is glorious. I'm just United up.
I am trying to get into more football though, like championship level.
Yeah, you've been going to games,
Yeah,
haven't
I've
you?
been to a couple of games with McCubbin because he's a big non-league fan, and I want to get
Came to a
a little
Sunderland
bit
game
more
as well.
into non-league as well. Yeah, we went to Charlton versus Sunderland. What an experience that was! But nah, proper boring, mate.
Alvin _LW has a unique one. He says, "What's your favourite Chinese dish?"
Mum, do you like a Chinese?
Specifically Chinese.
Chinese only.
I feel like this is probably a bit unfair on Chinese cuisine because the only time I really divulge in China, gyozas are Japanese, aren't they? Is when it's like you're drunk and it's like chicken balls or chow mein or like lemon chicken. Favourite Chinese dish? I've got to say, after 3 or 4 pints, a pack of greasy chicken balls goes down a dream.
Okay.
I'd go sweet and sour pork Hong Kong style. It was the takeaway we used to get as a family when we were growing up, like probably once every 3 weeks or so. Chinese.
So nostalgic as well.
Yeah, definitely with a few bean sprouts, egg fried rice.
Maybe sweet and sour ribs as well.
Oh, they're nice. as
Oh
well.
yeah. In the words of Sam Coffey, Beijing Kaoya. Shredded duck. No, is it something like that? It's like shredded duck or shredded beef.
That's actually better Chinese
You
than I
have
must
no
have.
idea how
I
many
must have
times we've heard
learned
that in
it,
the office.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think in all jokes aside, crispy shredded beef.
Yeah.
Christmas shredded beef, nice
That's
one.
my
But
favourite,
sometimes you
not
can get
shredded
that
duck.
and it can be like, I feel like it's a dog toy, a chew
It can
toy.
be a little bit too chewy.
It's
at
just like,
times.
what is this?
It is a risk. We'll finish then with Harry Riddick, who says, Beckham's best haircut, ? For him, it's 2002 peroxide blonde mohawk.
Should we just drop Dorman's answer in here? Because
Yeah, Pete Dorman, yeah, he'll be erect
has a-
over this question.
inexplicable love for Beckham as a man in his mid to late 20s. His best
Let's
haircut.
change
I think
Now.
I think the shave. I actually think the one all over. Absolutely
He's
buzz
got
cut.
the face for it, hasn't he?
The shave reminds me of the free kick against Greece.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's why I love it so much.
That was awesome. And anything in that sarong. That sarong was the
Oh,
highlight,
God.
really.
I remember I used to get a sarong a whole day as soon as Beckham. Oh, can we have a sarong, man? Yeah, go on then. Go and buy it. It's €10.
I quite like just the dyed blonde, like messy quiff.
Oh yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah,
it was
He's
good.
had a very effective hair transplant as well. He's a great advocate for it. Yeah, he's had a hair transplant.
No, he's
No, he
not.
has not. Do
Yeah.
not.
I'm not joking.
Sully his
blaspheme.
name.
As a man who's been considering it
Jealous.
for a while,
Do
I am-
not- Just jealous.
Blaspheme, you liar.
I'm always aware of it. Like, he was losing it big time at the back. You can
Blasphemous.
See on Google Images, type in Beckham bald and tell me I'm wrong.
Nah.
Tell me I'm wrong.
Blasphemous.
No.
I'm not having it.
He's had a hair transplant. Dorman cried when I
What
told
an
him.
awful way to end this episode.
Oh my god. Seriously,
You're
that's a
a
disaster.
bastard, dude.
Anyway, that is the end of this episode of Sunday Vibes. Gents, what else is happening on Football Daily Network?
Go and check out Stat Wars The Champions, which has launched last Thursday. I took on Bobby Seagull, who is a very intelligent man. And go check out all the other Stat Wars The Leagues as well on Eurofootball Daily.
FDFC obviously producing fantastic content at the moment. We've got sevens where I can't score a penalty from 6 yards.
Can't save his life.
We've got squad goals where the boys play pro clubs, and it's just hilarious, quite frankly. And if you're not subscribed to our other channels, but you subscribe to this one, then you're really letting me down. All right?
Personally.
Thanks very much for watching. Au revoir.